Welcome to the pod, ToBeFrank. This is episode 1. Let's get into it. My podcast, answering questions about myself, my business, entrepreneurs, and the questions in life that we yearn for. Today, I'm going to be going through a few bits and pieces, what I want to talk about, just kind of launching this podcast, and futures we're going to be getting guests on, different people I think we'd really like to hear from, people I've learned from, and people I think you could learn from going forward. A little bit of information about myself. I started a business when I was 20 years old. Now, that's quite young, and I would still class myself as a young entrepreneur. I've got big plans for the future, and I want to kind of teach the younger generations and even some of the older generations, hopefully, places where I've fallen short and learned along the way. Now, how did I start? So, leaving school, I wasn't a big fan of getting grades and studying, so I decided to get an apprenticeship. That didn't last very long. Left that as well, and I jumped around a few different jobs, worked as an estate agent for a short period of time. Again, didn't last very long, didn't enjoy it, didn't feel like I had my purpose as such. And then I was offered a job, funny enough, with a family business, specialising in, of all things, road sweeping. Now, one thing led to another. I spent a few years there, and I learnt a lot. I owe a lot to them. They wasn't the best to work for. And I hear that to this day. After a few disagreements, I decided that, you know what I was doing there, I could probably do by myself. So I sold my car, which I had on finance. I still owed the money on it, and plus some as well. Sold my car, kept the cash, and set up a website. A little bit of fiddling around with pay-per-click and Google Ads. I got a few inquiries coming in, and yeah, before you know it, we've kind of grown into this 7-figure business that we see today, with 14, 15 staff, 5 people in the office, 9 people out on the road, and it's going from strength to strength. We've got big plans for the future, purchasing other businesses and growing it into a larger group. So where did this passion, this drive come from? To be honest, even before setting up a limited company and running a road sweeping business, I was always, this is very stereotypical, I was always very entrepreneurial. I used to buy and sell road sweepers. I used to sort of drive all up and down the country, used to find them on eBay, buy them for like 200-300 quid, put new brushes on, take off the stickers, clean it all, and re-advertise it on eBay for like 5-6 times the price because they was quite sought after, like fully working sweepers. Used to sell them, and I was earning just as much money doing that 2 days, 3 days a month as I was in a full-time job. So that was probably when I was 17, 18. Before that, and even up till recently, I've been a DJ. So I do kind of believe that some people are just born with it. Again, pretty cliche. But I meet some people, and it just makes complete sense that with their personality, why they are where they are. Do I believe that you can do it just through pure grit and determination? Yes. Although I do think you need a certain level of resilience. There's a fantastic entrepreneur who actually gave you a bit of inspiration for this podcast called James Sinclair, who you probably know. And he goes through like the 8 steps or 8 traits of the greats. I can't remember all off the top of my head, but one of them is just kind of grit and determination, resilience, and commercial awareness. What was my mindset, and how could other people get started on a business? People start businesses for, in a manner of different ways. The most common ways are, they end up running businesses because they've inherited it. They work for an employer that they just cannot click with, so they decide to do it themselves. And that's typically someone that comes from a management background and they see the workings of the business. Or the final one, which is someone that is a professional tradesperson. So they have a very highly desirable set of skills, and they can kind of go out freelance working for other companies. For myself, it was probably the management side of things. I do believe that you need knowledge. Knowledge is power. I needed a certain level of knowledge and understanding of how a business ticks before I could go do it myself. And before I was buying and selling road sweepers, it was just pure chaos. I knew I had to buy something, add some value somewhere, or at least a markup, and then resell it again. And that's kind of what sort of generated my profit. But only now do I kind of realise how much I don't know after learning lots. So I'd say learn. If you're in school and you're unsure what you want to do, then definitely go work for an entrepreneur. So preferably a smaller business, startup, 8 to 15 employees. They've made a bit of traction, they're making a bit of money, they've got different departments, but you'll still get a very, very good understanding of all elements of the business. The sales funnel, the people, the operations, the marketing, and even the finances possibly. So that is probably what I'd recommend is go work for an entrepreneurial business. So did I come into running this business with doubts? 100% yes. Any entrepreneur that says they're not scared or didn't have like butterflies in their belly when sort of doing their first deal or their first business from like a young age or that first leap, I would probably say they're lying, or they're very, very, very entitled or bubble wrapped because they haven't done it. Maybe not always the case, but that's how I felt, at least. And I've spoken to a lot of entrepreneurs who've all said the same thing. It's scary, it's a big leap, and you're betting on yourself, which is what you have to do. On that topic, when I started the business, like I mentioned, I was working for a family company. I didn't actually tell my dad for a few months because of the family connections. I started the business, set up the website, it was incorporated, a bank account, we went VAT registered, got an accountant, and I was dealing with inquiries and booking in jobs, subcontracting. I didn't tell him for quite a period of time because I feel like I'd get some stick, and only when it kind of started to build and we started to make some serious traction, and I was basically earning my salary within probably 3 or 4 months. Then I told him and said, look, this is what I'm doing. Other family members were very, very supportive, not necessarily financially. I've done it kind of very independent without external funding, which I'm very proud of. Not saying it's the only way to do it, but that's the way I've done it. Who was the most supportive? I'd probably say my grandparents, to be honest. They I could do the most obscure, crazy stuff. I'm buying this, I'm travelling here. They've dropped me off places when a vehicle's broken down. They've been there through thick and thin. Do I think it's important to find people that support you in business? 100%. No entrepreneur or business that's successful is built by one person. Get that into your head. You need a team around you. Now, whether that's an internal staff team or external, so whether that's a wife or girlfriend, a brother, a parent, a grandparent, or a business mentor. I've had more than one business mentor over the years. A very, very good one that I can highly recommend is Will Polston for personal development and sort of business coaching, and his little black book of contacts. Absolute top tier, so 10 out of 10 for Will. The moment it clicked to me that, wow, I could actually do this, was fairly quickly into the journey because, like I said, I was buying and selling bits and pieces from way before, or 2-3 years before I started the business. So I could see the money that was out there before actually getting it, or at least before sort of like really getting into my business journey. I first kind of matched or sort of exceeded what my salary was at my previous company pretty early on, but then it wasn't very high. So that made it easier for me, but it's also clouded my judgment a little bit as to kind of where we need to be as a company and myself personally. I've just reinvested. But it's only really about 5 years in, maybe 6 years, that we started to smell the roses and experienced the economies of scale and the compound growth, because up to 1 million, 1.5 million, we've spent a lot of that money building foundations. We've got a nice little podcast room, we've got a wicked office, we've got a fantastic team of people, they've all got nice stuff, we've got company cars, company vans. I've decided to go that route. If we decided to kind of cut back a little bit on resource and just almost myself work a bit harder in the operation side of things, we could have taken more cash, or I could have taken more cash, but it's not really the route I wanted to go. I wanted to build a good foundation. But I learned pretty early on that there's money out there, and if you create a good system and a good process, that it can kind of work for itself. One of the key things I would say to any person, man, woman, lady, child that's looking to start a business is aim for the stars. You might hit the moon. Not to lower your expectations, have high expectations of yourself, but to manage them correctly. You absolutely must have delayed gratification. Typically, this is not everybody, an employee mindset is very, very kind of short-term reward, instant gratification. You do something, pat on the back, salary at the end of the month or end of the week, whatever it might be. It's very consistent, and that creates comfort, which 100% I think most of us need as human beings, and some people need it more than others. Depends on your situation. Like I said, I was young, I was living at home with parents, I didn't have any responsibilities as such, so I could afford to take that jump. But yeah, starting a business is risky. You need to be very, very resilient, and you need to be able to delay gratification. I've not paid myself for months at a time. I've forked out tens of thousands of pounds of savings that I've accumulated over a year or two, only to put it back into the business because we've had a bit of a lull. We needed a certain bit of equipment just to get through the winter, whatever it might be. So just be prepared for that and know what you're working towards. You must have a vision. You must have like a kind of goal, and you need to stick to your values, what really matters to you. So yeah, to summarise, this podcast come about because I would really like to give something back. We've given talks in schools and colleges, and I'd like to be doing some more. I want to get my name out there. I want to be famous to a few. I want to be known within my industry. I would really like to kind of teach some of the things that I've learned over the years building this business that you might not have to kind of learn the hard way if you take it on board. A lot of it won't be new. A lot of it's just kind of stuff that is quite well known amongst entrepreneurs and business owners. And even through like the personal development space, it's not necessarily just if you're wanting to start a business. It's just how to up-level yourself, how to be better. So yeah, this is ToBeFrank. And I would love to hear your thoughts, what you want to know about me, what you want to know about the business, what you want to know about some other ventures we got going on, plans for the future. Do like, comment, subscribe. I'll look forward to the next one. Oh, and one more thing. This podcast isn't just about me. Like I said, it's about personal development and leveling up. So the best way to do that is to bring other people in who have leveled up, much higher than myself, that can bring a different element to the table. So if you are that person, you feel like you want to give something back, you feel like you can bring something to the table, and maybe even learn something in the process, please do get in touch. We do need guests for the podcast. We have a lovely podcast room. And ToBeFrank, that is it. Reach out on our social media channels. We look forward to hearing from you.